Okay. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining our weekly webinar series. My name is Brennan. I'm one of the co-founders of Wholesale. And today I want to talk to you about some new features we've released that allow you to connect Phonecheck to your custom fields in Wholesale. And sometimes I do a longer webinar where I talk a little bit more about what Wholesale is and how it works, what e-commerce integrations we have, just covering the basics for anyone that's on the call that doesn't know. Today, I'm going to skip over those things because we're talking about new features and probably going to have more customers on the call than prospective customers. So if you have questions, though, about how Wholesale works, and if we've got any extra time, throw those questions in the chat. Mike will connect with you. Our account manager, Mike, is on the call as well. He'll connect with you, and I'll answer those questions and give you a little demo if I can, if we've got time for any core questions. So yeah, let's jump right in. So today we're talking about this new set of features that we've launched in Wholesale in the last couple of weeks. And a few weeks ago, if you get our emails, you saw that we launched custom inventory fields. So that gives you the ability to add inventory fields that you didn't have before, describing specific things about unique inventory items. So we have been having folks wanting to have fields for a long time for things like battery health, serial number, because maybe they're keeping the IMEI and they also want to keep the serial number, vendor ID, if your vendors use a unique ID and you want to use that ID when you're talking to them about RMAs or anything like that. And like if you're tracking the software version of the phone, anyways, many different things. And one of the very, very obvious things to us as we were building this out as well, a lot of those things that people want to store in these custom inventory fields are available when they test the devices with Phonecheck. So very rapidly, after about a week or two after we launched custom inventory fields, we launched this new update this week to allow you to map your Phonecheck attributes. When you test phones in Phonecheck, you get a huge group of attributes about the device, and you can now map those to your custom inventory fields in Wholesale. So I'm going to kind of show you how that works. And then we also added a feature that we haven't talked about as much because the custom inventory fields one is the biggest, but we've had some customers tell us that they want to be able to, when their testers are testing devices, maybe they've got a damage condition that they have in Wholesale, and they're just noticing it on the device as they're testing it, and they're putting it in the comments. And this was new to us, so we took a look at it, and there's a comment section in Phonecheck on the tile in Phonecheck. When you plug in a phone, it appears on the tile, and you can enter comments. And so what we created is a way for you to map those comments that you leave on an item that you've put through Phonecheck, and you can bring them in as conditions in Wholesale now. So yeah, there's these two new updates to our Phonecheck integration, and that are kind of mapping to custom inventory fields and conditions. So if anybody's got any questions, again, use the chat and let me know. But that's kind of what I want to talk to you about, and we're going to jump right into this demo today. So let's pop over to our kind of custom fields. Hopefully everybody can see my screen well enough. And what you have in custom fields, when you go into your settings in Wholesale, you'll add custom fields, and you can make them. You have unlimited access to them. You can make as many as you want, and you can name them whatever you want. And as you create them, they'll show up here, and you can see them here. For me, I've created battery health, unlock code, software version, tester name, and vendor. These are just examples for me, but I think that to try and exemplify what our customers are using this for, you can go in if you want and edit the name of a custom field or delete a custom field. That will delete all the information that you've stored about devices. But so here's where you manage your custom fields. Now, what we've added most recently to our Phonecheck integration for existing users, you'd be familiar with the fact that previously our Phonecheck integration just had this top section, this enter credentials section, and now it has a couple more sections. So that second thing that I was talking about of adding notes to conditions, we can enable that, and that will bring over any conditions that your testers add as they're testing inventory in Phonecheck. So they can enter just a text condition, or excuse me, a text comment in Phonecheck, and that'll import to Wholesale, and you'll be able to map it to a condition. So I'll give you a demo of that, and we've got it enabled here. And then the custom field mapping is kind of the marquee feature here, where you're able to choose to map, and all of your custom fields that you've created will show up here. So if I didn't have any custom fields that were created over here, I wouldn't have anything showing up here. But once I create my custom field, they all show up here. and they allow me a pretty significant list of these attributes that are available from Phonecheck to map to. So I've got battery health mapped to battery health percentage. I don't have unlock code mapped because we're not using Phonecheck to get an unlock code. I've got software version mapped to version, so that should bring over the iOS version of an iOS device. And tester name, just so we can see, maybe the person who's entered that inventory into WholeCell, maybe they're just batch entering it into WholeCell. But you want to know who actually tested the device if you get an RMA or something. So we've got a tester name as well. And right now I don't have vendor mapped. So these are our settings here. So let's pop over. Hopefully you guys can see my full display. I've got Phonecheck running back here. And I've got this iPhone 11 plugged into a Phonecheck instance. Can everybody see the Phonecheck screen? I want to make sure I'm not just sharing a window. Looks like it in the preview. So, but anyways, I've got a Phonecheck instance pulled up here. Cool. Thanks, Heider. And I've got an iPhone 11 plugged in, and I have already gone into, you can see this comments section right here. I've already gone into the comments here, and I've entered cracked back and screen bleed on this particular item. And so that I think is synced up with the Phonecheck cloud. I have our Phonecheck cloud pulled up as well. Does anybody have any questions about, if you're not familiar with the Phonecheck interface, I'm only slightly familiar, so let me know if you've got any questions, but we can kind of see some of the details for this iPhone 11. It's at 80% battery health, I believe. I guess its software version is actually 15.3, so we can see some of those custom attributes that are going to come over to our inventory fields, and then the conditions. So let's copy this ESN, and let's pop back. I just want to show you guys where you can kind of validate too. So in Phonecheck's cloud admin, they've got a cloud database section. And this is, so everybody's clear, this is what WholeCell is pulling from. So in Phonecheck system, they've got their desktop app, and then their desktop app is pushing information up to their cloud portal, and then WholeCell is connected to Phonecheck's cloud portal. That's how we're using the API key that you put in from your Phonecheck account. And so we're pulling the data from here. So if you've ever got data that is showing here in your desktop app, but it's not showing in the cloud portal, you'll need to try and sync it so that it updates, and that's how WholeCell will be able to access it. But okay, we've got a few devices here in our history that we've pulled from. I'm just going to search this page for notes. And cool. So we see that this top device, the notes came in cracked back and screen bleed, and that's an important point here. So the conditions, if you're importing these to WholeCell and you want to use them to map to the conditions you've got in WholeCell, you can create multiple of them and separate them by a comma. So WholeCell will kind of treat these as two separate things: cracked back as one and screen bleed as another. So let's go over to a PO. It looks like I was already testing this out. So I've got a Phonecheck example PO, but it doesn't, these two devices are other ones I've been testing. Let's go in and import from Phonecheck. And for anybody that Gary asks, can you import from the cosmetics column next to the notes column? Let's see what that cosmetics column is. There's a SKU column there next to the comments. You said next to the notes column. We definitely can import from the grade. So we do import the grade from Phonecheck, Gary. I don't know if that's what you meant. I don't know that we're importing any other cosmetics. Oh, in the cloud, there's a cosmetics column. No, I don't think that we're importing that right now, but that's a great feature request. In fact, if you don't mind, Mike will share our roadmap link. We've got a public roadmap, and if you don't mind suggesting that to us in our roadmap, Gary, we'll get that added to a feature request, because I think that's a good idea. And making that same commitment to everybody. If you have an idea that you want to share with that you're hoping to or a workflow that you're hoping to use WholeCell and Phonecheck for, we're really open to this feedback. I can't guarantee that it will get built or in what time frame, but we've got a roadmap that we share publicly, and you can submit ideas on that roadmap, and we really appreciate any ideas you've got. So yeah, no on the cosmetics right now, but we do bring in grade, and you'll see that in just a second. And so when you've got your Phonecheck credentials set up in WholeCell, you just add your any station username that you've got across your Phonecheck account and your API key that you get from the cloud. Once you've added those things, this option will be available now on your POs. So you'll be able to import inventory from Phonecheck along with uploading a spreadsheet or what have you. So we'll click on Phonecheck import. I just want to make sure I've got the ESN here. It did copy. So we've got that ESN copied. Let's go to next. It's going to bring in the information, and just like I was showing in this separation of the two conditions that have come over in the comments, we've got cracked back and screen bleed coming over from Phonecheck about that iPhone that we're importing. They're coming over as damage conditions. And for anyone that hasn't seen our mapping, this mapping workflow in the past, we have a few options here. So we can either ignore this and it'll just import the device completely ignoring that cracked back was there as an option to map. We can create it. So this will create cracked back as a new condition in Wholesale that you could use in the future, or we can replace it. And I think replace is the most common option we see. So replace will bring in all of our existing damage conditions in Wholesale that are available in your product catalog. So you can add more of these, manage them, etc. But we want to see, I think we've probably got one for cracked back, but in a different form. Yeah, so we've got cracked back plate. So we're going to map, in this instance, cracked back to cracked back plate. And maybe you already see the opportunity here, but I think I just want to cover that one of the benefits here is you can standardize all the conditions you use. So we see a lot of folks coming over from spreadsheets where testers are entering, sometimes lowercase, sometimes uppercase, sometimes one word, sometimes two words, etc. So you end up having this really unreliable data when you want to go back and summarize the data or analyze the data. And so in Wholesale, our whole goal is to make your data more standardized, kind of like I think Phonecheck's goal is as well. But we also want to make it fast for you to be able to enter these things and map them. So we've mapped that to cracked backplate. Let's see if we've got an option for screen bleed. I think that we've got some LCD. These are probably under LCD in this account. So yeah, well, maybe we'll call screen bleed LCD blemish heavy. Again, if you could even have a LCD blemish 1, 2, 3, screen bleed 1, screen bleed 2, etc. You could kind of vary it out like that if you wanted to, but those are your options. So now we'll save those. That's going to import this phone into Wholesale. We can see in the damages section, we've got all those damages accounted for. And let's just go to that phone specifically to see everything. So our IMEI came through, our product came through from Phonecheck. We didn't put a grade in, so that came in as unknown, but all of our damages mapped the way that we wanted them to. And again, the marquee feature is this custom inventory fields section. So these values, I didn't have to enter them manually. They all came in from Phonecheck. And if I'd mapped values for, obviously for unlock code or vendor, those would have come through as well. So this is the crux of the feature. If anybody's got any questions on it, I can do some more playing around and poking through the interface. But that's really what we just launched, and I think it's going to be pretty powerful for folks that are using Phonecheck and using Wholesale. And maybe it's worth talking about. If I don't have any questions to answer, I think it's probably worth talking a little bit about the workflows that we see this being really valuable for. And one of those things, for anybody that's not like a power user of Wholesale right now, is the fact that Wholesale matches your SKU changes when a product changes. So, and to be more specific, if you go through and have say you've got a manifest from your vendor that basically just tells you the manufacturer and model, but maybe not the color, maybe not the variant, like the A2111 here about this iPhone 11, and maybe not the network. Maybe you're buying mixed network devices. I don't know if that's the case or not, but we see that as a pretty common workflow for the larger e-commerce sellers and wholesalers that use Wholesale. So they'll want to upload a spreadsheet of all of the items that they've got in very basic details, like make and model, or make, model, and network, or something like that. And then they're going to run a bunch of Phonecheck tests through their team in batches, and they're going to update that information. And what's pretty valuable about Wholesale in this instance, and how now Wholesale connects with Phonecheck so you can bring this info in, is in Wholesale, we've got these product variations that are a combination of the product, the grade, and the damages. And that makes up this thing called a product variation. And what you can do on a product variation is set the SKU. And this is how Wholesale connects to e-commerce marketplaces, is through this SKU. And so I'm just trying to build the context for this picture that, if you have a business where you are testing devices, you're buying devices in bulk, then you test them, and then you list them on e-commerce platforms. What Wholesale can do for you is it can make it way easier whenever you're going through and changing the SKU, because that's what you're doing when you're adding, information about the product, when you're adding the variant, you're adding the capacity, the color, the carrier. When you're adding all that information, In another inventory system, you're going to have to go through and make SKU changes. But in wholesale, you're literally just going to have to change that information about the product itself. And when you change the product or change the grade or change the damages, and you've got those items mapped, first and foremost, you need to have your products in your catalog already attributed with SKUs and have that all set up. So I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a big task to undertake. But once you have all of your products assigned to SKUs that are assigned to also your listings on your marketplaces, you can come in and change inventory, change the product, change the grade, change the damages, which is something we see just constantly happening in a device business. And that SKU is going to change automatically, because changing any of this information is going to put this specific inventory item into a new product variation. And the product variation is what carries the SKU. That's a lot of information. It's pretty dense to take in, guys. I know that hopefully I can keep doing a better job of explaining that simply. But if you're doing this day in and day out, you may have a sense of how cumbersome that is to you get devices with some amount of information about what device they are, but not enough information to map to creating listings on e-commerce or even wholesale listings. Then you test the devices, you get more information. And what wholesale makes very, very easy is, as you're updating that information in wholesale, it's managing the SKUs for you and then connecting these items to the listings that they should be on in the background. Matt says, is this demo centered only around the new Phonecheck integrations, or is there another session where we see the basic workflows and integrations for someone looking to learn the software in general? Yeah, sorry, Matt. So, in interest of keeping these webinars short and sweet, I do them on one particular feature. So we don't, if we were going through everything, that would be a much longer webinar, and each customer wants to see one thing or another. So, I can, if you've got specific questions about other integrations, I can go through a few of those and walk you through those in the software. We also are very happy, Mike, if you don't mind actually putting our Calendly link in. We have a one-on-one scheduler link, and you can schedule a one-on-one with us. We do kind of ask that, we try to not go spend an hour or two going through every feature that the software has, but you can start a free trial, explore it a little bit for yourself, and then put together a list of questions, and we'd be more than happy to sit down with you and answer your questions that are particular to specific integrations or how wholesale handles different workflows. So we spend a lot of time mapping wholesale to each customer's different workflows. Everybody does things a little bit different, but generally similar. So we've seen a lot, and we can hopefully help guide you down the right path. Yeah. And thanks, Mike, for sharing all of those articles or all of that information. For anybody that joined late or joined in the middle, I think I've been talking about how our current Phonecheck integration now has all of these new features. One thing, just to be transparent, so everybody knows what's coming in the pipe. We don't do this too often, but I know this is something we're definitely planning on building and in the process of building. Is right now you can only add new inventory to wholesale via the Phonecheck integration. But I think the next thing that you're going to see from us is the ability to update the information that you have in wholesale about a particular IMEI based on a new test that you do in Phonecheck. And we're really excited about that because it opens a bunch of possibilities for different workflows. Maybe you receive a spreadsheet of inventory from your vendor, you want to upload that to wholesale, and then you want to do a Phonecheck of all those devices, and then you want to update those items, but you already had them in wholesale, but you want to update them. Currently, that's not possible. For anyone that's that didn't know that, currently you can only add new inventory to wholesale. So if you already have an item in wholesale, you cannot use the Phonecheck to bring in updated information. But we understand that that's a really important workflow that a lot of people are using day to day in their business. And right now we have you export a spreadsheet from Phonecheck and upload that spreadsheet because we have a spreadsheet upload bulk edit tool in process batches. But that's high on our minds as one of the next ways to extend this integration and make it map to whatever kind of workflow you have. And I'm particularly excited about that because I think it brings a lot of new possibilities with things like RMAs, right? Where you're receiving RMAs, maybe you're receiving e-commerce RMAs, and maybe you did a Phonecheck right before you sent out the device and fulfilled it on the order. And then you get the device back and you have this opportunity now, and you not just an opportunity, you probably have a responsibility to do another test of the device once it's come back on the RMA and see, did the customer just send it back because they didn't like it and they're just complaining, or is there actually something functionally wrong? And is the test going to be different, and what have you? So we're really excited about enabling you to bring in updated test results about a device, and I think that's the next thing that you'll see from us in our Phonecheck integration. So, and again, pointing to what I was talking about earlier with SKU changes, once you're able to do that, you now have a system where your team can go in, phone check a device. If it was in wholesale and it only had limited information about the model or the grade, or maybe the damages, you didn't have the fact that it was cracked glass in there, you run a phone check that updates the cracked glass values, and literally that behind the scenes wholesale puts that item into a new SKU. And then because that SKU is connected to all of your listings on your e-commerce sites, now that is propagated out to your e-commerce sites. So I just want to paint kind of a vision here for, so that you all know what we're looking forward to building and are very close to, is a system where, your ops team and your processing team is constantly testing devices. That's updating the information that is in wholesale. In wholesale, you're managing your product catalog and how that's connected to your e-commerce listings, or your, maybe you sell B2B on e-commerce. So, but all of your listings, and then your listings are being updated with the correct quantities of devices based on, the real updated information about them, about their grade, their damage conditions, their product attributes, etc. So that was again, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thanks for being here, everybody. If you got any questions, toss them to the side. If not, thanks again for coming on a Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll pop back over here to the end of our webinar slides. If you haven't started a trial and you want to, that's the link to start one. Our trials are 15 days, but we'll give you a little extra time if you reach out and let us know that you joined this webinar. Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Hader. Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. And again, I mentioned this before, but Mike and I really love to help people figure out how their workflow in their device business maps into wholesale. And so we've built wholesale kind of coming from this state of building general tools that can be made specific for folks that are using the software, and we can give you good feedback and suggestions on how to map your e-commerce workflow, how to map your testing workflow, etc. So you can get in touch with us via live chat on our website, or you can reach out to us via email, and we'd be glad to help. So yeah, thanks, Evan. Nice to see you all. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.